Welcome everybody. Really looking forward to this webinar. For this one, we're going to go deeper into some of the major updates that we've had with STS that really are really game changing for, I think, for us as a team and for other users that we've had so far reporting back to us. Francis is going to go into all the details, but basically in allowing the integration for more LLMs and Google search, also document export is really changing the way that we're approaching, like, even my work on the online, like the way that I use LLMs, the way I use AI, the way that I use search, and now that it's incorporated directly into our planning platform. A lot of the stuff that I do personally is like I do a lot of research. I do a lot of thinking. I'm learning stuff all the time, and so like what I found very challenging initially when I first started using LLMs was I was just churning out content. I was just producing so much stuff, but it was really hard for me to go back and figure out, like where's the good stuff? I know I had some good ideas and I didn't exactly know how to organize it or really work with it. Until I started working with STS and started to be able to spread that information out, like organize it, like leave the stuff that I didn't care for, and start to organize the things that I did. Like, here's a good idea. I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to dive deeper, and then I started putting that into, say, a workflow within a board. That really like changed my relationship initially with LLMs.
Ah,
But now, like what I was still doing, like I was still going to say Perplexity for certain things or Claude for certain things and ChatGPT for certain things, and now I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm super excited about that. And my past life, I worked for as a productivity and efficiency expert and consultant for many years. And one of the things that we always talked about when like I did like system operations, and I was like tying systems together so they communicate with each other. And what I would often do is help companies like put two things together, like say Outlook and Teams is an obvious example, but even Zoom and Outlook or maybe Asana and Slack. And the point was to bring these different tools into one platform, so I don't have to go somewhere else. And so now what's happening with STS is we're continuing to grow and develop these different features and abilities, is that we're making it an all-in-one. Like basically, I don't have to go to all these different tools anymore. I can cancel those other subscriptions that I have been paying for. I can save a bunch of money. I can save a bunch of time, and I can do it all in one place. So super excited to really go into the features, help you guys start to use these more efficiently for yourself and for your team. So, with all that being said, welcome. My name is Ben Clayton, and I am the Chief Engagement Officer with STS. I joined the team just over a year and a half ago, and I'm really excited to host this webinar where we will go into more of these features and use cases. And with me is Francis. So, Francis, do you mind just introducing yourself, for everybody on YouTube and elsewhere?
yes, of course. And since most of you have already been in many of our activities, I'll try and jazz it up a little bit. So I used to be a professional chess player. So I've always been interested in tactics and strategy. And that's after a long detour through all kinds of other corporate work in process improvements and project management and document automation and similar endeavors. I completed the circle with strategic thinking systems. Just the most fun that I've ever had on the job my entire life.
Nice. That's the nice thing about these tools these days is you can build your ideal work situation and tool. So congratulations. Okay, great. So Francis, what I'll do is I'll share my screen, and I'll just go over the agenda, and then I'll hand it over to you so you can go
Yep.
deeper. And I'll just make sure that also everybody has access to this board. It's in the webinar folder within STS.
Oh,
So we'll put that in the show
talking.
notes as well for the recording. But there's a link in the chat here for those of you on Zoom. Okay, so here, here we are. So with this, so here's our basic layout. So in this board, and again, this is for those of you watching on YouTube and have maybe haven't been to one of our webinars before. This is our main board, and this frame here is where we have, some details about this particular webinar. You could use this for, say, a meeting within your company. You could have, say, your agenda for the meeting itself. You could have a space here, and this is for everybody on the call live, is that if you have any questions or requests, just enter it into this space here and hit return, and it'll create a card below. And you can see there's other spaces here, which we'll get into as you just scroll using this bar here to the right. And just to orient you a bit further, on the far right here is the AI tab, and this is Francis will show you more on this, but this is where the AI agent is. You can have more and more details as we'll go into it here. So bring our attention back to the agenda. Francis is going to go through the new features. We'll have an open Q&A. This is really throughout the whole call, so don't wait until the end here to bring up any questions or concerns. You could drop it in here or even unmute if you like. And then we'll talk about some of the things that are coming up, including we'll be at Web Summit in Vancouver in 2 weeks. And there's a couple of events between now and then as well. So we'll be presenting, we're pitching, we have a booth, lots of activity happening here. So I'm very excited to join. Actually, 4 of our team members will be there together for the whole week. So that's something we're really looking forward to. Okay. So if there's not any questions or something else you guys would like to add to it, I will hand it over to Francis.
All right, and let me share my screen because I'm going to be going back and forth to a couple of things. And all right, so you see the webinar board.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So what I want to walk you through today is basically like a concrete scenario of going through a SWOT exercise, so strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat, and then creating a project plan using all of the new features and capabilities that we've started to introduce in the last few weeks. So I'm going to open the AI tab. I just click here, open the AI tab. So I have my AI colleague here. And what I did is I basically just connected this AI to what I call the project. And what is a project? It's basically just this here. I am a project manager responsible for implementing a new affinity card at a large bank, right? So it's singular. That's obviously a very made up and not very detailed context, but you can imagine you could put more context there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask basically like what is a SWOT? Right. So that's the kind of very simple question that you can ask an LLM today, and then you'll get a very decent answer most of the time. Sometimes I think SWOT is also no there's a SWOT in French is actually the name of a character in Star Wars, so it can be confusing, but I think with SWOT we're safe. So essentially it says like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then some explanations on how to do that. So what I'm going to do now is suggest made up because I've not provided the what components for this project. So I say made up, right? Because again, I've not provided the proper context, but if I had provided a project charter, like business objectives, stakeholders, things like that, then I could have asked the AI to start suggesting an actual. So here we got this this answer. So let's say I'm going to just move things here. So you'll notice I have two sections. I have my AI tab here, and I have my main board here. So what I'll do is I'll basically just take some of those cards and move them over. Oops. All right, move them over to this. So I'll say, let's say I'll pick this one here. I'll select those two here, click on opportunities, and then copy and paste. So here they are. Oh, these were weaknesses actually. So I'll move them here. And then opportunities, this one I'll bring here. And then the threats, I'll pick just any one of those threats, right? And so what I can do once I've done that is, I can invite my team to start like adding more strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threat, edits those, add, subtract, reformulate, things like that. One thing I can do, and I'll go now into one of the new features, is I can actually say, if I say, for example, uh, where can I find good examples of SWOTs, right? Now, what I'm doing now is I'm asking ChatGPT, right? And as you know, ChatGPT has been trained from data from the past, and sometimes it will just answer that I can't help you because, or sometimes it will also give you some made up answer. You see, I got all like a lot of text, but I was hoping for actual website. So let's say give me links to websites where I can find good examples of SWOTs, right? So I'm asking more specific questions. Probably not going to get a great answer just because of the nature of ChatGPT. Give it a second here.
Francis, would Perplexity be a better tool to use?
Exactly. That's where I was going. And so this time I did get some of these. My experience with ChatGPT is that it's been a bit hit and miss. So let's see if that one works. So this one works actually. So maybe ChatGPT is getting better. But what's new with STS is that I can now start my questions with Perplexity. And you see the instructions are here, right? Whenever you have an AI colleague, it says here, starts with Perplexity, Google, Claude, or STS Help, and we'll use all of them. So Perplexity, give me links to websites where I can find good examples. And just one thing I'll show you is that if I click on that card and click on card details, you can see that it's actually coming from GPT-4o. Now I'm going to make that same question, but I'm addressing my questions to Perplexity directly. And now what we're doing is that we're detecting that this question is addressed to Perplexity, so we're going through a different path to get the answers from the Perplexity platform. And now I have actually more links, I believe. And you see that paperclip icon here. If I click on that, it does open this website here. And interestingly, it found one that is related to the project that I referred to in the project here. So that's interesting. And if I look at, again, if I go to card details, you'll see that this one actually came through Perplexity. So I know that it actually went through that tool. So that's great. So I'm doing that. So let's say now I'm looking for courses. The one thing I could do is I could say something like Google, what free online courses are available on SWOTs? Right. So now I'm essentially doing the same thing, but it will now go to Google to find relevant websites. And Google is oftentimes better for things like, asking what's the weather in Ohio today or things like that. And then again, I can go to the card details and you see that it did go to Google. And then it is sending me to, there's a Canva as some content available, or Class Central, Coursera. So that's one I was kind of expecting. And then using advanced SWOT analysis to determine competitiveness. So I can do, as Ben was mentioning, I can do my research right from that interface. Good stuff. And now the other thing I can do is like we've already taken all of these elements from my previous search that we put into strengths, opportunities, threats, and weaknesses here. So what I can do is I can ask for, I'm going to change the context, or actually I'm going to keep that, but I will add my threat, my weaknesses, my strength, and my opportunities. Right. So I'm changing the context that the AI is seeing. And now I'm going to ask for create one sentence summary of that SWOT analysis. Now, because I didn't prefix it with anything, it goes to ChatGPT. So
that's like our default LLM, basically.
Sorry?
That's like our default LLM is
Yes,
ChatGPT.
exactly. So it mentions like integration and marketing budget challenges. So integration challenges, limited budget. So it basically it read all these cards and created that nice summary that I can just like send that to let's say my boss or to my client if I don't want them to be bothered to do to the full detail of that analysis. So that's interesting. Actually, what I'll do, I'll just take this card here and we'll copy it in the notes on the left here. So essentially, I'm going to do cut and paste. So that's the answer from ChatGPT. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to ask Claude. And what I've found is that Claude has a slightly different style of writing and of looking at things. So it gives me like a different voice to interact with my content. And depending on the task at hand, one model or another might be more interesting. So if let's say I remove this here, and you see the bank's established brand and experienced team provide a competitive advantage. So experienced team was one of the elements in the strength. So it did the same work, but it did it differently. And then again, as an individual using STS or as a team, we can look at those two versions and hash it out. And sometimes what I do also, I can come here and I'm gonna just add notes here, and I'm gonna say which one of the sentences in notes would you recommend I use, right? And then sometimes I also ask like, can you improve on both or can you combine both? And so you see that I think this time it got confused because the context is too wide. What I'll do is, because I did not add the notes. That's why. Let's do it again then.
Notice too,
Always blame the AI first, then realize your mistake, but don't tell the AI that you were mistaken because then it will become fresh, right? And so both sentences provide a comprehensive overview. Here's a breakdown to help you choose, and then recommendation. If you prefer straightforward and concise overview, go to ChatGPT's. If you want a more detailed and nuanced perspective, go to Claude sentences. So it's basically giving me like, why would I use or when would I use one versus the other? And interestingly, this is ChatGPT commenting on both of their work, but again, I can also do that. Ask Claude the same question and see how differently Claude would respond. I did mention that I would go through all of the prefixes here. So one thing I can do is STS help. What is a frame? Right? And what it does now is instead of asking ChatGPT, which may or may not know about STS, it actually goes through curated content that we've created. So a frame in STS is a structural component used to organize content within a board. Frames can help break down complex projects into manageable sections, and so on and so forth. And then there's also a link. And if I click on that link, it actually brings us to our documentation page. And you see, it brought me straight to the section of the documentation that talks about frames and lists, and then I can watch that video. Right? So that's the kind of things that you can do by just asking for help, like STS help, essentially. And there's some degree of sorry.
Sorry, just pause this for a second just to see if there was any questions on that, because I think it was a couple of comments and I had one on before going into help, but it just to point out, I did a little arrow on the screen there that notice when Francis moved those cards over to the notes here, he didn't actually say which one was which, like ChatGPT or Claude, but because we all have access to this board, I went in and I made those notes. So you see at the very beginning of each one of those cards, it says ChatGPT and Claude. It's because I did that. Now, so and I did that as a way to just demonstrate that any one of us can go in while we're working. This really the point here, and type in like your own notes, and add a card like I just did here at the bottom. Kind of live during a meeting. So like sometimes we get on a roll, right? Like things are happening. Francis was doing this demonstration. It's just like, oh, you know what? I think a good idea would have put which one was which on there, and I did. So I didn't have to interrupt him in order to do that. I could just add it, and also give you the example of how this really is a collaborative space.
Any questions? Any comment from anyone? All right. One thing I do have to ask for you guys though is that one of the things as I'm like essentially what I'm doing here is kind of moving STS towards that idea of vibe coding. If you've been watching some of the trends in the AI and the startup universe, vibe coding is essentially where you tell the computer what you want and the computer builds it for you. And so we're kind of moving in that direction with STS, and some of the things we're going to be adding soon are the ability to say here something like add a frame for doing a swap, and it will create that entire space for you, right, automatically. So this is kind of the directions that we're going to. Going back to doing a Perplexity versus Google versus Claude versus ChatGPT, one thing that we can do, we have that capability today, is let STS make that decision for you. So you ask your question, and then STS, depending on the questions, will decide whether that question will be better answered by Google, by Perplexity, by Claude, or by ChatGPT, or maybe even by the STS help component. So that's one avenue we can take. The other avenue we can take is to let you stay in control and decide by prefixing your question which service do you really want to, like, which specific source do you want the answers from, right? And I'm kind of two minds about that. Like it's so I I guess you could say I'm old school, even though I am building AI systems myself. I'm still accustomed to telling the computer exactly what I expect it to do and not letting it decide what's best for quote unquote me. But I can see where there's pros and cons to like letting the system, be creative and use its own quote unquote judgment to make those determinations versus being able to very precisely point it towards. Anyone has perspective on that? Would you feel comfortable if STS was on its own figuring out whether a query is best served by Perplexity versus, say, ChatGPT?
Yes, I would like that.
Okay. That
I
was
would
a
like a
very
recommendation.
positive, strong,
Yes.
willful answer from Charlie. Anyone else? Amy, you're muted.
Says I can barely hear you, and I heard an ask. I just don't know what it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's on my side.
New
Okay.
computer.
So the question is, and Ben, maybe if you want to put the question into the frame is, would you prefer like if giving the choice of having the ability to very precisely ask STS, I want that answer to come from Perplexity or Claude or another service versus letting STS decides based on your questions and based on what it knows about the work you're doing, decides which one will be best suited to give you the kind of result that you're looking for.
So if you're asking me,
Yes.
I think letting them decide. But I see the benefits of both. I
Yeah.
mean, I really do.
So I think that's probably the directions we'll be going, where if you don't specify a service versus another, it will make that determination. Right now, when you don't specify it, it always goes to ChatGPT. So I think what we'll do is that when you don't specify one, it will go to the one that it feels is most relevant, feels quote unquote, scare quotes. But if you do specify it, then it will follow your instructions precisely. So we'll try and provide the best of both worlds that way. Thank you. That was my ask. All right. That was easy. Now, I want to move on to assets. And so we introduced that a few weeks ago. So from anywhere, from any board in STS, when you click Save Board, you have Export Asset. And by default, it will select the basic asset, which is one of the free assets. When you click on export to asset, you see at the bottom says asset successfully exported. Find it at the bottom of the board. So I'm going to scroll down, go to the left, and you see here I have this basic asset that was just exported. And if I click on it, I have here, that's my export number 6 on that board. That's the basic asset. And essentially what it is, it's just a complete dump of that board into a Word document that you can edit, that you can copy paste into an email. You can do whatever you want. But here you have essentially every frame becomes a heading, and then the frame's description is a subheading, and then you have your list, and then you have your items in the list, and you even have the links that are provided when there are when there are some, like for example here, the link to Web Summit is here. This document is branded with STS. That's what you get when you use a free tool. If you want this branding removed, there's a button here. It's kind of a button, but essentially if you're using Word, you do Control click here, and it will bring you to our website. You see, we urge you to subscribe at sts42.com. And from there, you can choose for annual or monthly subscriptions. It's $20 a month, and it helps support us. And then you get these assets without the branding. So that's one thing I wanted to show. The other thing I wanted to show is that you see here I've created this SWOT, and I had an ulterior motive is that one of the free asset that we're providing is a SWOT asset. So if I click here, essentially what it will do is instead of dumping the entire content, STS will now look specifically for the components of a SWOT into the board. And if it finds strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats, it will put them into the resulting document. So here I've just exported the SWOT. I click here. And here is, my SWOT created from the board, right? So imagine like these are actually cards that were created with the AI that maybe the team worked with that, added more, edited, whatnot. And then once I'm done, and basically all the magic is that if there's a list called strengths and a list called opportunities, then STS will figure out that, oh, this content goes here, that content goes there, and that's it. So very, very effective way. Once you're done, like, at STS, we have a bias towards, action and impact. So it's not just about chatting, it's not just about talking about the issues, but also going to the next step of making things happen. And that's a manifestation of that. Now, the other thing that I did is I created this timeline here. See with months and some activities, and yes, I did ask the AI to come up with mock activities, but here same thing. I can add more. I can say, let's say maybe July, not much is happening, so I'm gonna combine and put these in here, so I can move those deliverables around. And then once I'm happy, I've gone through all of these cards with my team, I can go again to save board, and now I created a board asset. So that's an asset that only exists in the context of that board. And then export to asset. And going back at the bottom of my board, here's my timeline. And now I have, my year at a glance of how I'm going to deliver this project with all of my milestones or deliverables. You see that I have more work in August because in July this is me time. Just gonna call it me time, right? All right. So that's it. That's kind of what I wanted to, and I think like these last three assets that I show, like the complete dump of the board, a SWOT, very structured presentation, and then the timeline, which is basically just a list that takes everything and puts that into a table like that. Like this is the kind of things that you can now start thinking about if you are on a premium plan on STS. But we're very excited about these capabilities and what they provide. And then some of the features that we're gonna add in the near futures are, let's say you circulate that document, say you send that to the client makes revision to it. We're hoping that we can, when it comes back to you, that you can actually upload it back into STS, and STS will update the card. So we're not there yet, but that's the kind of things that we're looking to do, so that it just like fluidifies or removes the friction into some of the activities that are required to do successful project management.
That's great. Francis, there is a question on the board. Maybe you could even share your screen again, go back to the board. There's a question there from Amy.
The calendar here was actually I just asked the AI to come up with mock activities throughout the year. But your mind is going to the right place. What we want to do at some point is also create an integration where you can connect STS to your calendar so it can actually create these boards and then creates these assets and then maybe even let you update your calendar. So this is not like in the short term roadmap, but this is the kind of things like imagine that you're using Jira or Microsoft Project or Monday.com, any of those like task management tools or scheduling tool, and being able to go back and forth from the detailed task management and scheduling platforms that I just mentioned, back to, okay, let's look at this from a higher perspective, from a strategy perspective. Is that what we want to do? How does that impact this entire schedule? If I'm adding a deliverables, if I'm losing a team member midway through, and then being able to rejig that and then push the results back to those platforms. Again, this is part of our longer term roadmap, but this is 100% where we want to go with that. And AI is also making it a lot easier to do these type of integrations. So,
For sure.
So Francis, eventually it may link into these scheduling tools to do Gantt charts.
yep,
So
absolutely.
we'll
Yep,
be able
yep,
to do that.
yep,
And the other thing I was thinking about is tiering in strategies where in the scaling up model, you have your annual priorities, your
yep.
quarterly priorities, your monthly priorities, and the individual priorities. And you could tier all those together to see how all that work is contributing to that annual goal.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. And then you can rejig things and combine some of the higher level goals, and it will reorganize the lower level task accordingly, and then go back and forth between the strategy work, the thinking work that you do in STS, and
Yep.
then the detailed task
Planning.
assignment and following up
Good.
that you do on the other tools.
That'd be powerful.
Getting there.
Francis, I have a question that's related to some of the notes that I put in the board. So just scrolling back to the left, and this is related to what I think both Charlie and Amy have brought up. You see there in the notes there, I put the use cases for which AI services you might choose. So
Yep.
like there's a lot of benchmarking out there and so on. And so I just used it to basically list when you're doing your project planning, when you're doing your research here in STS, which model do you want to basically go to for any one of those activities? And we could like maybe debate some of this or talk about some of this if you think this is right. But I think that I like the segmentation here. It's like when you're doing analysis, when you're doing content creation, problem solving, planning, getting specific into the planning. So I thought this was interesting with ChatGPT for those timelines. So as you just did with with the calendar, and you want to do the prioritization. But for Claude, maybe you want to use risk assessment and mitigation strategies. Maybe you'll use Perplexity if you're going to do more research around best practices or when you're getting into a specific domain, as it suggests here. And then the last one, and I'll let you respond, is that the technical documentation. So technical writing, ChatGPT, Claude for accuracy and precise language, and Perplexity for verifying details. I think that's pretty accurate. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
So my first thinking is that this is a great list, but it's likely that if I went through the same process, I might have slightly different preferences, or because of the organizations I work with or the country in which I'm based. Maybe I'm gonna for some of those things I will prefer a slightly different mix for the same task because it's me versus you, right? And so I'm thinking, yes, this is exactly where I think we're going in towards a world where these systems have each their strengths and weaknesses, and those strengths, those weaknesses, they evolve, on a weekly basis. So what's true today might not be true tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, ChatGPT will become better for refining and improving language, right? And so I think there will be first reflections where you can ask those tools what they are best for, and then STS will become a kind of an orchestration platform that will mitigate the like essentially go through this marketplace of potential agents that can help, that will be best positioned to help you accomplish your task. And once we get there, I think and then based on your preferences, maybe if you speak Spanish, some of those tools will be better or not so. If you want to have more of a Asian or European perspective, maybe again like you'll want slightly different prompting, slightly different tool selection. Maybe for some more sensitive stuff, you'll want something that is private to your organization that does not go like to the outside world. So
Right.
all of these, I think, are part of the very exciting new world that we're stepping into.
So this also makes me think that, as you said, I mean, maybe like we can have the benchmarking loaded into a board, or maybe we have our own preferences. Like, maybe so this, like putting this aside, but still keeping this in mind, like when you need to make a decision based on specific criteria, you could have that criteria in a board on a list. And I mean, even guiding basically your planning based on your own values and principles. I mean, that could be say your guiding values and principles are in a list that when it's time to make a decision, you can measure against whatever's in that list, right? So you can always pull that as the context to be included within your query within STS.
Exactly.
Okay, so
part of part of that orchestration will be based on each systems. Probably at some point will have their own like menu of this is what I'm good at, right? And if they don't, then we'll go to like external, like third-party benchmarks and stuff like that, which gets updated on a regular basis. So it will be interesting to see. And then STS will have its own like sets of criteria, and then you as an individual or as a team, so that you could have like a set of criteria for your team, and then a set of criteria for you individually that might be slightly different, and then STS can alert you when some of the things that you've mentioned in the past as one of your preference maybe has fallen out of favor on the benchmarks, and then STS will say, you know what, you did mention that you prefer Claude for this type of use case, but according to the latest data that I could find through a Perplexity search, like STS talking to you, saying you that, maybe today our Mistral is the best tool for that, especially since you speaking Spanish, and I've noticed in many of your interactions with that content. So again, like all these things are part of where the system. I think I like, if you've heard me before, you know that I do not believe that we are anywhere close to AGI, but we are living in a world where computers are a lot smarter than they used to be, and they can do a lot more for us.
Okay, that's great. If there's no questions on what our follow-up comments on what you just shared, there is one more in the chat there, or in the list. So on the third list is how is user data protected when using multiple AI services?
Very good question. So one of the things that we're monitoring, and if you look, actually, there's a statement here, not here, sorry. Here, there's a statement on the about. So I'm clicking on the character icon, and then I look at about STS42. There are a statement here. Like, we provide the user interface to connect and work with various services, including ChatGPT. Terms and conditions from these vendors also apply to using our service. So that's kind of a very broad and generic statement. But if you look at, let's say, with ChatGPT, for example, they have terms that are very different when you are using ChatGPT from STS than the terms that you get when you're using it from their free tier or when you are a paid user of ChatGPT. And so basically, when you're using it from STS, as of today on ChatGPT, your queries are private. They are used, and your queries, the questions you are asking are not being used to train the future version of ChatGPT. Uh, this is obviously like an evolving landscape. We need, now that we connect to more services, we need to first do more research on our end and provide transparency, basically giving you access from here instead of just like that generic, very, very high level statement. Will go specifically in every one of those tools that we're giving you access to, and we'll provide you links and details on what they can and cannot do, or say that they will or will not do with your data. And then you can decide to opt in or opt out on those services accordingly. And again, like there's always, there would be like additional cost for that, but there's always the possibility of having STS implemented or connected to a completely airtight private LLM that is unique to you and that nobody else can access or look into.
Great. Good. Excellent. And so if no follow up on that one, there is another question about how can team members vote or rate AI generated suggestions, which is, I like this question because you see here, like we've created a lot of content here just on this call, and this is going to happen within meetings.
Yep.
Right. So you have a proposal, you have a planning, you have decisions you need to make. So how can team members kind of weigh in when all this information starts to come together?
So I think there are two layers to that. That first one is rating the tool or the tools themselves, like the services that we're connecting to, so that we can start generating like on average it looks like people from this team prefer using Perplexity to Google, say. So we're going to prioritize Perplexity's as an answer provider for that team. In that type of context, right? So there's that. But and yes, we don't have that today, but this is one of the features. This is on the roadmap to basically allow you to rate those answers and provide that type of visibility, so that STS can learn to provide you the type of content that you're really looking for. The second part to my answer to that is up to this point, and literally up to the point where we are able to load assets, generate assets, connect to additional systems, and there's more evolution of that. But we feel now that we have the groundwork completed for what we want STS to be and to provide. Again, like there will be a lot of improvements and additions to that, but we do feel that we're at the point where this is 100% workable solution that fits many use cases that we personally have encountered and our clients and our community have expressed. But now that we have that groundwork, that base level of functionality, we really want to start building more of the how should I put it, the strategic component, right? Like STS is a collaborative space for strategic thinking. So we provide this layout of frames and lists and cards that allow you to organize your thought, and then that helps the AI understands what you're trying to do also, and you can train it or target it to specific content. but we want to now start adding higher level functions where STS would, for example, say, hey, it looks like I'm looking at the things that you're typing into this list, and it looks like you're trying to do a risk analysis here. I have a few suggestions of how you could accomplish that. Are you interested? And then if you say yes, then it would walk you through some of the maybe like things like a force field or some of the other models from the literature that can help you and your team walk through the various components of a managing risk, for example. And so and voting is a key important, like one of the key value that we see in STS that we are experiencing ourselves. Like Ben, Priya, and I are in meetings multiple times per week, sometimes multiple times per day, and we always use STS to make decisions. And between the three of us, it's not that difficult. But if there were 10 or 15 of us in these calls, it will be much harder to come up with this type of consensual decision making. So one of the things that we want to provide is voting, and we also have plans to integrate a survey platform directly into STS. So there's all kinds of different things, but voting on like which one of the, let's say I'm looking at the let's say a list of questions here. Which one of those like, let's say, what are your number 1, 2, and 3 questions that you want answer here? And then based on, let's say we are 100 people on that board at the same time, the card that gets the most vote, it gets floated to the top, right? So that's also the kind of things that we want to be working on in
Francis,
quote unquote near future.
Yeah, Priya and I worked on something like that because we brainstormed elements of the strategic plan, and she was able to go in and say, okay, just put 2 initials in there, and we would count up the initials, and then the ones that had the most initials on the summary board went to the top, and we said, only give us the top 3, and then it would give us the top 3 summarized out of that entire list that might have 15 or 20 elements. So we did basically a nominal voting technique inside the boards.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that Priya as she said something last week. She said that she's now trained her mind to work in STS, and now we have Priya's mind 2.0. It's Priya plus STS mind, which is a very powerful and dangerous thing, I would think. But yeah, like that's a great example of how you can use it today to do that prioritizing and ranking. But again, it does work. It's great example of the flexibility of STS as it is today. But there are all kinds of different things that we can do to like make it easier and more intuitive to use.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I think this is maybe a good time to actually come to a close because we are actually at the top of the hour. I do want to point out a few things here, though. You may notice in the question lists there that we now have answers. So I've added the answers, Francis's answers to each one of those questions, so we can go back to it in a future webinar, a future session. We can refer to it. Like this is a decision that was made. We had this conversation, a decision that was made. You can use AI to summarize and so on. The notes that we've created. We can ask it to do priorities, like what are the action steps out of these notes, and then so we basically have a bias towards action, as we like to say. So we could take these notes and actually create actions from them. And then the second thing I'll point out is that on the top of notes, I've added two things. I call them action items for you. Please subscribe to our calendar here. This is our Luma calendar for all our webinars and in-person events. You could just, as it says, subscribe, where Francis has already done that. You can just click that and subscribe. You'll be notified of upcoming events. And for the next one is our personal page at Web Summit for Vancouver in 2 weeks. So you can come, you can join us there. I'm finding actually there's going to be quite a few of our friends in Montreal that are going to be there. So it's going to be a great event. We're really looking forward to it. So I hope you can join us. Okay. Thank you, everyone. With that,
Thank you.
thank you, Amy. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube as well for future videos. We're posting them now at least weekly. We're also, you'll find how-tos and other past events on our channel. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week, Charlie, right? For the part
Yes,
2 of the
part two of the chartering exercise.
Project
Yeah,
Charter.
finish that
Yeah,
up. Yeah,
looking
thank
forward
you.
to that. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right,
It's going to be great.
bye.
Take care.